have you ever heard of James McCanney?
No.
Well, James McCanney is somebody you might want to connect with, because he is by profession he was an astronomer, and he basically at one of the eastern major universities, and when he started telling the world that comets are not dirty balls of dust, he kind of got kicked out of the system. But he is so far advanced in his engineering, and he JamesMcCanney.com, that's his website, and he actually has designed scalable wind generators where it kind of looks like a Ferris wheel, and he has airfoils like where each swinging chair would be. He has airfoil, and so when the wind blows, it causes this wheel to rotate, and he has that hooked up to a generator, and he can scale it. He's already demonstrated, or actually shown, like how he can run the entire city of Los Angeles on one of his generators, if the government would just buy into it, and you can scale it down for your house, your neighborhood, whatever scale you want. He's already designed it. He's already done the proof of concept that it works, and that's, like you say, that's a very interesting way of doing things. So go ahead. Continue on. That was just a side thought I'd throw in there for you.
Well, like I say, there's a lot of me's out here that have phenomenal ideas and technologies that would change the world. They're just not allowed to bring them out. Unfortunately, we live in a very greedy, self-centered, power-hungry world. And, we ourselves have allowed this to happen by not, you can't stay complicit and, they're doing this. No big deal. Let them do it. That's not affecting me. Well, we've done that and I say we as a whole nation and a whole world have allowed these people to develop their hooks and sprouted roots throughout every fiber of power that is out there, that, the new generation is changing. Our environment is changing, and it's not changing for the better. It's getting worse and worse.
Randy, you are so right on there about the world environment right now. It's almost to the point where it can't be reversed. I mean, it is so bad everywhere, and we have to stop the pollution. We've got to stop the chemtrails. We got to, the reptilians are systematically destroying our planet, and of course, building cars with these lousy gas mileage isn't helping any. And that's a big problem. And this is one question I have is, if we built cars that got 500 miles a gallon, would that be enough to stop the planet from dying? We reach the point where we have to go to alternative systems of transportation other than cars burning petrol fuels. Where are we at in reality? I mean, you look at the stats and it's just scary. I mean, it's outrageous how far this planet is. Like you said, I mean, it's so destroyed right now. I mean, even if everybody in the country started driving a car with, 100 miles a gallon or 200 miles a gallon, is that enough to solve the problem? Let me throw that out there. Where do we need to be going with all this? And we also have a bunch of guests on here that may want to add something too, Randy. So, I'd like you to comment on that, and then open it up for anybody else that wants to make comments. We only have about 20 minutes left.
My ultimate goal is not to play in the old fossil fuel petro arena. My goal and where I'm heading towards is EV vehicles, electric vehicles, which, right now they say, well, people think it's much better for the environment because you're using electricity. And well, those electricities are generally powered by fossil fuel, coal, burning plants or nuclear plants, which that is a hideous way to produce electricity. Just look at Fukushima. One bad thing goes wrong, and you got a catastrophic issue. So all manufacturers, and there's a lot of countries now that are saying by 2040, 2050, that they're going to outlaw all fossil fuel vehicles, that they're going into that electric vehicle range. The issue you have with the electric vehicle, just like in the early days when GM first came out with theirs, there was a documentary done called "Who Killed the Electric Car?" And that documentary pretty much went to the auto manufacturers and big oil. Because if you have an electric vehicle, you don't burn gas. You don't burn gas, Uncle Sam doesn't get their gas tax revenue, and big oil doesn't get their revenue from oil, because you don't need oil or gas in an electric vehicle. Now, with that being said, the oil companies still make money on it, because if it's plastic, it's refined from petroleum products. So they're still making money. Their grease for your bearings, your axle assemblies, that still takes grease, which is a petroleum product. So they're still making money, but Uncle Sam is completely, or world governments are completely cut out of that profit margin, with the exception of sales tax. So can you make an EV vehicle where you don't ever have to stop and charge them? The simple answer to that is all the professionals, all the engineers, everybody says no. Bottom line is absolutely undoubtable that you can.
Where have I heard that before? It can't be done.
That's where thinking inside the box again keeps you limited on what you can do. If they say you can't have, well, let's just take a Toyota Prius. It's an electric vehicle. Pull up to a stop, or you start the vehicle, you don't hear an engine because the engine's not running. Once you hit 15 miles an hour, then the engine kicks in. Well, what if you could reset that control module to where it only kicks in at 35 miles an hour, and in that interim you're running on electric, or what the battery will allow you to run. Once the battery hits a certain voltage, the engine automatically kicks on. Can you take that 15 miles an hour and take it to a different speed? Absolutely you can. But you have to have a controller to be able to reprogram the OBD2.
Can I ask you a technical question?
Well, hold on a second. Let me finish this, and then you can. That is a self-generating vehicle. Yes, you still have to use petroleum, but yes, that petroleum engine recharges the battery so you can keep going down the road. Well, if you take an EV vehicle, and a gentleman I know spent a few years in the federal vacation resort because he developed an electric vehicle that did not have to be plugged in. He turned the two cooling fans that are typically on all your smaller vehicles now, turned those into wind generators. So as it's driving down the road, it was recharging the batteries. So can it be done? Absolutely. Is there a better way to do that? Absolutely. They say you can't put a generator on a vehicle because there's no moving parts. or rotating parts. Well, last I knew, you had 4 wheels that are turning as you're driving down the road, and you can attach generators to the axle assembly. They just choose not to because that's going against grid.
By the way, are you familiar with Tom Bearden?
No.
He's he's retired now. When I stopped by to see him in Huntsville back around 1992, I stopped by to see him. He was just moving, and he was retiring from being an astronautical engineer for NASA. But he designed a generator that has no moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
No moving parts, but it puts out as much power as you design it to be. No moving parts. It would run anything. But
I believe it.
But he's, it's kind of like, it's just like Dennis Lee when he designed all those generators. Did you ever hear about Dennis Lee's generator project?
Yeah, the Sundance Hummingbird generator.
Well, Dennis Lee designed an over-unity generator, and it was a generator to power 1 or 2 houses, and he wanted to demonstrate it that at a he wanted to go to 10 football stadiums. In fact, the football stadiums with a full crowd, and demonstrate it. At the 50-yard line, he wanted to demonstrate these generators, how you could run your house.
I'm very familiar with that project. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that project. Yes.
Well, there's a lot of our listeners have never heard of this, and he was his project. Here's what Dennis Lee set up. He set it up to where he designed this generator that ran for free. Didn't use any fuel. It was an over-unity generator. Once you got it going, it put out more energy than it generated. Plus, it would put money it would put electricity back on the grid. So when you plugged in your house, you could run your house. Plus, it would add extra electricity to put money back into the electric grid system for the power companies, which are supposed to be publicly owned, by the way. Well, anyway, Dennis Lee went around the country, and all he wanted to do was get 100,000 people, or what was it, maybe, I forgot. He wanted to fill up 10 stadiums with 50,000 people, and so 500,000 people. He wanted people to make a commitment that they would actually go on a Saturday or Sunday or some day that he picked and go watch the demonstration, and if they went to the demonstration, that he would give them a generator for free. He would hook it up to the house for free, no charge. The only thing he wanted was when the power company gave that individual
check
money for contributing to the power grid, that he would collect that fee. But he would also maintain the generator at no cost to anybody. And he couldn't even find 1,000 people to sign up. So there's so many unbelievers out there.
Yep, and that's, the issue with any rotating product is it has to have a bearing. And bearings have, you can get dry bearings, you can get sealed bearings that have grease in them, but eventually those bearings all end up wearing out. Well, there's and I know for a fact they work, which is what I'm looking to develop for my mag drive system. Is right now, you have to use what is available. It's an old bearing style system, not a problem. What if you used a magnetic bearing?
A non-contact metal magnetic bearing, like the lev train.
Exactly.
Like the lev
mag train.
Used, right?
Yeah, the mag train.
The mag train.
Well, and these are perfectly circular, but and for the viewer or the listeners out there, just think about this and common sense go through this. Opposites attract. So you take any magnet, two magnets, opposite direction, north and south, those magnets are going to pull themselves together. If you reverse the poles, go north-north, south-south, those magnets now repel each other. And depending on the Gauss strength of the magnet, which is the strength of the magnet, rare earth magnets are extremely powerful. You can't, well, some of the magnets I've seen, you don't want to put your fingers together and let the magnets come to. You're not going to like the results. As you also, once those magnets are connected to each other, you physically cannot pull those magnets apart. And they could be 2 inches in circumference, not very big at all, but you will not have the human strength to pull those magnets apart. Reverse those. Go north-north, south-south. You cannot put those magnets together. They will absolutely not go together. That's how strong they are. So if you take an outer diameter ring, that's north. You take an inner diameter ring, that's also north. You will not be able to make those magnets come together.
Have you designed one of these?
That would be a bearingless, frictionless bearing. And once you got that started, your RPM potentials are incredible. If you have something that starts out and magnets keep driving it and it gets faster and faster and faster, you could be, well, let's just say your RPMs is, you wouldn't want to put your fingers on there to try to stop it. You'd burn your fingers up. So you'd have to have a system on there to where it had a braking system. And, using magnets, how do you break it? Well, you just start pulling the poles apart, and then you have a braking system that continues to go. It's a fascinating arena to play in. And actually there is an American company right now that has now learned how to make a monopole magnet, and they've actually got, it was on a show that was on television where it was a half an hour show where they took this magnet or these magnets, changed polarity on the magnets to whatever they wanted with a stroke of a key. So they were making magnet locks, just like you have your key lock or your combination lock, the padlocks. They were making magnetic locks to where they work. They're looking at, for your safes, having a combination of you can punch in a code and that would unlock your safe, or swipe your hands a certain direction, or like your smartphones now where you have to do to unlock your screen, you have to do certain patterns. They've got this down to where they can actually make a monopole magnet, which, meaning by monopole, you have a north, but you don't have a south, or you have a south, you don't have a north. Because that's where all the alphabets come in and say you can't do it. People with real names that have alphabets behind their name say you can't do it. You rotate a magnet and you get the cogging to where it'll go, but it slows down and it'll eventually cog, right in the middle. Well, that's because you have a north and a south that are always there. Unless you know how to cut off the south or the opposite end, you're always going to have that issue of cogging. You get rid of that, your potentials are endless on what the potentials could be on that. And the more we can get away from fossil fuels or more in line. The more you can disconnect yourself from the monopolies, the better. But that's going to take more than just a few people doing it, because there's a lot of communities where people have tried coming off grid. They've got wind generators on their property, they've got solar panels on their property, and next thing you know, they have legal issues because the city ordinance or the county ordinance or your community that you live in have rules against that. Here in Oklahoma, about 3 years ago, they passed legislation that if you have a wind turbine on your property or solar panels, you will be taxed on those devices. And
they got to get
see
their
the writing on the wall. Correct.
Well, Randy, we only have about a minute left. We're running out of time. So could you tell everybody how your name and how you spell it, and how to contact you for more information? Any questions that people have? Could you give us that information?
Absolutely. Sure. My name is Randy Catlett. Last name spelled Catlett. And my phone number, I'll give you my phone number. Area code 918-951-0047. Again, that's 918-951-0047. And I give that out for just for the simple fact that it takes, you never know who you're going to come in contact with, but the more that we can pull good people together, the better it is. The more people that get involved in what we're doing, the better we become. We need
we got 90 seconds, Randy.
So,
well, Randy, there's one thing that I'd like to share with you and everybody else. We have what you call we sing the new you, and what that is, it's NU followed by 3 individual U's, and we sing it like new you, and we do that for 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night, and that connects us with the real guides who will show us what's really going on. So sing new you and ask the real guides, and they will show you what's going on behind the scenes. Well, that's it, Randy. We're running out of time. We got to go, and thank you so much for being on the show.
All right, and I thank you for having me on.
All right, and thank you, all the listeners, for participating, and we will talk to you next time.